Welcome to Wembley Stadium in London for the 2014 Capital One Cup Final, the first showpiece final of the English season between two Premier League teams, Manchester City and Sunderland. The trophy being placed on a plinth by Sergeant Corporal Paul Harris of the Household Cavalry, with the vivid colours of both sides tied to either handle. It is a pleasant day in the capital city, just hinting at springtime, and the National Stadium is packed out. Manchester City will walk out in familiar surroundings, this their sixth visit in under 3 years. Sunderland, captained today by John O'Shea, making their first excursion to the new Wembley. They last played at the old one in a playoff final in 1998. But I suppose their reference point when it comes to visiting Wembley is, of course, the classic FA Cup final of 1973, when Ian Porterfield's goal and Jim Montgomery's double save saw them beat the best team in the land back then, Leeds United. Vincent Kompany, of course, is captain of Manchester City, hoping to lift the League Cup as he did the FA Cup a couple of seasons ago. Leads to moments of comparative quiet in the tunnel before the players come out on a fairly dull day in London. Temperature is pleasant, there's no real chill in the air. Playing surface is good, no problems these days with the Wembley pitch. Manchester City used to these surroundings, Sunderland rather less so, although John O'Shea and his centre-back partner Wes Brown have played in 6 League Cup finals between them. The players will walk out and will be presented to various dignitaries. We will also have the national anthem prior to kick-off. And I promise you, the Sunderland supporters are really up for this in particular. It's so long since they were last here. Many thousands of them were coursing through the streets of the capital last night, enjoying themselves, determined to make a celebratory weekend of their visit to London, whatever the outcome of the match. And they will give their players a thunderous ovation. Gus Poyet, who's made such a difference to Sunderland, at the front of their line. Pellegrini with Kompany, leading out Manchester City. And here they come, ahead of the 2014 Capital One Cup Final. Two Premier League sides from either end of the table afforded a raucous and heartfelt welcome. Manchester City's players wearing what to you and I would be tracksuit tops, in the modern parlance, anthem jackets. Still with the possibility of a quadruple in front of them, although the Champions League looks like a big ask now. And Sunderland in the bottom 3, the relegation zone of the Barclays Premier League, but able to take their minds from the ongoing struggle there for one day at least, to concentrate on the contest for silverware here. Out come the presentation party to be introduced to the players by the two captains. The teams being introduced to Chris Newkirk, the head of international at Capital One, the competition sponsors, and to Alistair Gibbons, the supporter of Prostate Cancer UK, which is the Football League's official charity partner, and to the chairman of the Football League itself, Greg Clark.
Assistant referees, Mr. Child and Mr. Malone, and the fourth official, Mr. Swarbrick.
Martin Atkinson on the right there is the match referee today. Neil Swarbrick, the fourth official, Stephen Child and Simon Long, the two assistants. These the formalities that precede every set-piece footballing occasion, merely heightening the tension ahead of a much-anticipated League Cup final, the 54th in the distinguished history of this competition. And the first time that a South American manager will guide a team to victory, either the Chilean Pellegrini or the Uruguayan Poyet. Choruses of song from either end of the stadium, each team given just under 32,000 tickets.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we please be outstanding for the national anthem, led for us this afternoon by Louise Dieman.
And so let's have a look at the two teams. Manchester City are at full strength with one exception. Costel Pantilimon has been the regular League Cup goalkeeper, and so he's selected ahead of England's #1 Joe Hart. City have struggled without Sergio Aguero. The goals have dried up during his 5-game absence with a hamstring injury, but he's back today with Edin Dzeko preferred to Alvaro Negredo as his partner.
And Aguero is the one name that the Sunderland defence wouldn't have wanted to see in that lineup, John, because his instinct to find space just complements the movement you get from Nasri and Silva from out to in, and that link-up play. And of course, we can't forget about the two Manchester City fullbacks. Those late runs they make from deep are very effective.
Sunderland also welcome back a significant player. Wes Brown returns after suspension, meaning that 3 of the back 4 used to represent Manchester United. Lee Catamol comes in for the cup-tied Liam Bridcut, and American striker Josie Altidore is left out altogether. Larson comes into midfield, Barini plays up front.
Yeah, and I think first and foremost for Sunderland, it's going to be a measure of containment. So it's going to be more 4-5-1 in the way they set up, and keeping a discipline on things, particularly for Lee Catamol, because that's going to be an area of much traffic, and he has a tendency on occasion to be reckless. He's got to really behave himself today. I think they look to spring Barini and indeed Johnson and their pace, and then they've got to use Larson's very good dead ball set pieces to good effect too.
Greetings between the two South American coaches, Gus Poyet and Manuel Pellegrini. Jim will have plenty of chance once the game kicks off to talk about the contest tactically, but what about emotionally? What an atmosphere inside Wembley today.
It is, and for players, always the worst part, because you're just desperate to get going. You want to play well in every game, of course. Sergio Aguero will tell you that. But finals take on an extra importance, magnitude about this today, and for the players in games like this, you want to make a particularly good start, and it's vital, I think, particularly for Sunderland, that they do.
The UK bookmakers have Manchester City as odds-on favourites. Sunderland 9-1 shots with some bookies. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it is. I think probably helped by the fact that Sunderland were really poor at Arsenal last week. I think if they turn up similarly today, I think they're in for a very tough time. Manchester City fans already doing the Poznan, but yeah, Sunderland principally have got to stop Manchester City getting into their stride. And Pellegrini, we're hoping that he'll see his side hit their very best.
Well, in Gus Poyet's 5th game in charge, he introduced himself to the Wearside public by masterminding a 1-0 victory over Manchester City. Solitary goal that day from a former Manchester United man, Phil Bardsley. And certainly there's been a major upswing in Sunderland's fortunes since the Uruguayan Poyet restored some order after the chaos and mayhem under Paolo Di Canio. 90,000 people inside Wembley Stadium. all waiting for the whistle of referee Martin Atkinson. Wembley in March means the League Cup final. This year the Capital One Cup final to give it its full title. And what has been a beguiling and engaging competition throughout the season comes to this showpiece climax. And here's Samir Nasri for Manchester City. Fernandinho to Yaya Toure, who has scored an FA Cup final winner on this ground. Alex Kolarov again preferred to Gael Clichy. David Silva on by Dzeko, but too heavily.
Yeah, and already you're seeing Kolarov kind of pushing forward, and it's imperative that both Johnson on that side tracks Kolarov, and indeed Colback has to do a job on Zabaleta and stop the Manchester City fullbacks offering that late width to their attacks.
And Sunderland have fought through against the odds on a couple of occasions already in this competition, knocking out Chelsea in the quarter-final after extra time with a goal in the 118th minute, and then Phil Bardsley in the 119th, rescuing them in the semi-final against Manchester United, which then went to one of the less impressive penalty shootouts in modern footballing history. Temporary lull in the noise after the initial surge and excitement. Here's Wes Brown, just back from a suspension for his third sending off of the season. One of those rescinded. O'Shea.
That's brave from Sunderland, actually trying to play out through your centre-backs. Manchester City pressed them quite high. O'Shea had to go long.
Crowd enjoyed the challenge by Bardsley, which was firm but fair. Marcus Alonso, the man on loan from Fiorentina.
Listen, that's what Sunderland fans will want to see, that kind of commitment and determination and bite in the tackle.
Kolarov. Here's Zabaleta. Back to accompany the captain. And now Martin Demichelis, who was so horribly exposed in the Champions League recently. Silva. Kolarov won't quite get there.
No. I mean, Johnson got away with that a little bit again. You know, if he is going to track the run of Kolarov, he has to do it with more purpose. And this was kind of tackle you want to see from Bardsley. I mean, he just got a little piece of the ball, just about. But nice and robust.
Fair to say that Silva is now aware that he's around. No Altidore in the Sunderland lineup, so the big burly striker has gone to be replaced by Barini through the middle. There's a roll wider on the left for Jack Colback.
No, I mean, you know, for Sunderland, I think you'd fancy Barini's pace against the likes of Demichelis, and particularly as well with Johnson, who can offer something different. If you look at the Manchester City defence, you would say the left side is weaker than the right, and Johnson cutting in on his left foot could cause a few problems if they can get the right feed to him.
Dzeko. Kolarov. This is Fernandinho finding Nasri. And now Zabaleta. Manchester City have had this hiccup. 2 wins and 2 defeats in their last 5 games without Aguero. Here's Silva though. Kolarov and a corner.
Yeah, and I spoke about Aguero before, but Silva's a key player for Manchester City too, because he's very good at finding space between midfield and defence. and Sunderland have got to compress that and deny the Spaniard.
Adam Johnson facing a former club today. Silva. You get to try again.
Yeah, Wes Brown dealt with it.
Silva take two. And just over Dzeko, and it comes to Demichelis. Rescued by Company. Silva again. Header out by Alonso.
Demichelis just picked up a little knock in that too.
David Silva, the silky Spaniard. And O'Shea whacked it against Nasri, and it bounced obligingly for the goalkeeper.
I'm not sure John O'Shea actually wanted that pass played to him then. Put him under a little pressure.
There is a freshness about this occasion, thanks in part to the involvement of a team like Sunderland, who haven't been to Wembley for so long. And surely few of their fans would have dreamt back in October when they were rooted to the foot of the Premier League. Every day brought fresh newspaper revelations of what life was like under Paolo Di Canio. And eventually the board felt compelled to act, and in bringing in Gus Poyet, seemed to have pulled off something that so far one would have to judge as a masterstroke. Di Canio in charge for the second round victory over MK Dons, caretaker Kevin Ball for round 3 where they overcame Peterborough, and since then Gus Poyet has overseen victories over Southampton, Chelsea and Manchester United. Zabaleta caught late by Colback. Referee saw no foul, and this is Catamol now. And he uses the outside of the boot to try and bend it for Barini, who's all on his own for Sunderland. Now Johnson in support. Barini offside. And the rest is academic from Colback.
Well, the perfect illustration of the Sunderland game plan. Squeeze Manchester City, win the ball back, and then try and spring a little bit of pace on the break. And when it is returned to Fabio Barini, he is in an offside position. It's an easy call, but that will give Sunderland some encouragement.
O'Shea winning it in front of Aguero, and a handoff from Bardsley. Really knows one way to play, Phil Bardsley, which is wholeheartedly, on occasion fairly ruggedly, and the Sunderland fans have warmed to him because of that. Aguero. Shouldn't have been allowed to get that far. Save is by Manone. Loose ball seized upon by Dzeko. Kolarov. And out this time by Colback and Larson combined.
Well, Colback was the one who went down looking for the free kick, and for me, it wasn't. And he should have stayed on his feet and challenged for that. And Aguero was able to get the shot away.
Yaya Toure, Silva, and there's Catamol. Doing what Catamol likes to do, breaking up play, but not for long.
Not just breaking up play, but so much so that Silva had a little moan to Martin Atkinson after that.
Zabaleta. It's Aguero. Good tie by Brown. David Silva. Larson. Johnson looking for Barini. And Barini gets goal side of Company. Chance and a goal! Fabio Barini with a fabulous moment for Sunderland. And of all the defenders to be caught out, It was the normally silky smooth company.
Well, so far it's game plan perfection. And there's again the pressing from Sunderland to win it back from Fernandinho. And the ball over the top again now from Johnson is just to get Borini away. Demichelis is cut out because he thinks Kompany's going to deal with it. Kompany gets himself in a bad position. He has a little go at trying to hook it away with his right foot, but it just kind of rebounds off Borini, runs very kindly for him. But listen, he still has an awful lot to do, and he catches this beautifully. Watch it, little touch of the outside of the right foot to get the curl on it. That is a fantastic finish. Pantilimon can do nothing. He can celebrate.
A brilliant finish from Fabio Borini, the player on loan from Liverpool, who has now scored in the quarter-final, the semi-final and the final itself. And if the Sunderland noise was considerable before, it's now approaching a cacophony. Alonso, goal coming in the 10th minute.
Well, Zabaleta did Alonso a favour there, because it was a bit of a lunge from the Spaniard and Zabaleta just got on with it. Just important now for Sunderland to to gather themselves and just make sure positionally everybody is solid again. Not allow Manchester City a quick reply.
Of the last 5 meetings of these teams, Sunderland have won 3, including the last 2. Aguero to Dzeko. Now it's Silva. And from a neutral perspective, as well as a Sunderland one, it's the best possible thing that could have happened to this final. It means that Manchester City have to strut their stuff now. It's Nasri. Silva, very clearly preferring it on the left. Zabaleta. And safety first from Phil Bardsley.
Yeah, if you're unsure what's about you, that's always the safest thing to do. And it was the right option from the right back.
Wembley still a buzz with what it's just witnessed. Challenge very much laid down to Manchester City. Key's header. Larson. There's Johnson. And he's definitely in the mood, and the space for Colback. Not a natural wide player, but the support arriving from Alonso. And Demichelis at full stretch, nods behind.
And that's key for Sunderland. They're going to have to work hard doing that, because they're very deep defensively. But when they get a chance to break, they're going to have to make the ground up. And Alonso did just enough to keep the attack alive. But Johnson's been intelligent. The ball for the goal for Borini, and now that crossfield pass. He's looking good.
The 2 veterans are up. O'Shea is 32, Brown's 34 now. Larson slipped on by Bardsley. And a shooting opportunity fell on the edge of the box to Borini, and it's deflected for a corner.
Yeah, well, importantly, Manchester City got a body in the way of Borini, and it's Dzeko. You know, he would have wanted it just to sit down a little sooner, Borini, so he could get the shot away quicker.
Larson. Firm header. There's Brown.
It's a really good header too, John. And his immediate reaction, Wes Brown, was, could have kept that down.
Estelle Pantilimon in goal today, as he has been for all but one of the League Cup ties this season. First Romanian to play in a League Cup final since Dan Petrescu for Chelsea 16 years ago. Yaya Toure, Samir Nasri, Demichelis, Silva, Toure, one or two Sunderland supporters on the far side indulging in their version of the Poznan now. And it's spreading around the whole east end of the stadium.
Well, they are 1-0 up. They have a little more right to at the moment, the way things stand.
What a contrast in moods.
That looks rather glum.
That looks like the old Manchester City, where ultimate failure was always expected. Not the glitzy new one where zillions have been spent. Trophies, and lots of them, are anticipated. FA Cup winners 2011, Premier League winners 2012. Sunderland used to producing heroics at the National Stadium. Most people of a certain age will always remember the 1973 FA Cup final. One of the all-time great football matches. Ian Porterfield's goal and Jim Montgomery's double save. Most notably, the second bit of it from Peter Lorimer, which protected the cup for Bob Stokoe and Sunderland.
Well, it's all about that for Sunderland today, isn't it? Recreating the spirit of '73. And so far, so very good.
There's a nice line that emerged this week that the security code on the main gate of the Sunderland training ground is formed of the date of the 1973 FA Cup final. So it is still the ultimate reference point for a proud club, 6 times league champions, but not since the 1930s. 100 years ago, Sunderland were doing what Manchester City are doing now. They were known as the Bank of England club. So much did they spend on players.
It's not much of a security code now, is it, if you know about it?
I think it might have to be changed. Mind you, they could use today's date if they win. Here's Silva. Nasri. Alonso. And that deflected off Toure, kindly for Mannone and Sunderland.
But the discipline is all there. I mean, clearly Gus Poyet has put a lot of thought into how they're going to set up, and they really have catered for every possible attacking outcome that Manchester City could throw at them.
And there is the great man, Jim Montgomery. Still a regular at every Sunderland home game. Oh, company again caught out by Barini.
It's great pace and great determination from Barini. And just going back to the goal again, you know, to be so close to goal and actually get a little bend on the attempt, I mean, that's not easy to execute. So it goes up a notch, in my estimation anyway, as a finish. It really was very, very intelligent.
Key, like Barini, has been borrowed rather than bought. Key on loan from Swansea City, and followed by hordes of Koreans who have made the journey to see his big day here.
He got caught again as well, didn't he, with the ball over the top for Barini, and Barini looks as if he's concentrating on Demichelis as well and trying to use his lack of mobility and lack of pace on the turn.
There's Brown. Aguero. Catamol won it cleanly. Barini. Adam Johnson. Zabaleta. Means a lot in particular to Jack Colback, born in Killingworth, between Newcastle and Sunderland.
I think he'd prefer to play in where Key is playing today, but I think in playing a little wider, you accommodate Larsson and of course his very clever right foot on set pieces, and Colback I think can do a job in stopping Zabaleta from getting around the Sunderland box.
Johnson going towards Kolarov. Play on, says Martin Atkinson. Key. Johnson.
Yeah, clever by Kolarov. I mean, he obviously knows Johnson's game very well, and he was just trying to send him on his weaker right. Toure not happy he wasn't given the decision by the referee. Felt he was fouled by Adam Johnson.
Manchester City have had more of the ball, but Sunderland have the goal. Scored in the 10th minute by Barini. Zabaleta. Silva. Toure. Fernandinho finding Nasri. And it's overhit for Dzeko.
The only thing I would say about Manchester City, they're not zipping the ball about with the pace that they can play at. And Manone, he was called upon just before Sunderland struck. That's with Colback going down. Aguero produced a very good effort, and Manone had to be sharp. And when this left shortly afterwards, the foot of Adam Johnson, there was still an awful lot left. Now just watch the little bend he gets on it. That is absolutely superb. And thanks to his save, celebrations all around.
There is a fierce determination about Sunderland, quite apart from their regimentation and their discipline. There's a tremendous will burning within them.
There is. The spirit, the togetherness, it had to be right. There's a real cohesion about them. Very unlike last week's visit to North London.
Well, that was the dress rehearsal, and this very clearly is the real thing. And Poyet's been clever in embracing the cup competitions. Many managers would have turned their backs on them, given a relegation battle and fielded much changed sides and accepted an early exit. Poyet saw them as an opportunity to gain some confidence and momentum, and that's how it's proved. League form has picked up commensurately. Key. Jack Colback. One-footed Alonso, but this is Key again. Colback. Lee Catamol. Bardsley. It must be offside.
Yeah, he's annoyed, Larsson, because he wanted to deliver it a little quicker from Phil Bardsley. but I thought he could have held his run a little. Seemed a bit anxious to get there.
Picture of animation. Gus Poyet set a lead that the players have been only too happy to follow these past 5 months. Foul given against Toure. And there may be one or two Manchester City players, as Toure shows frustration by throwing the ball away. He's got away with it. Maybe a sense in one or two Manchester City minds of history repeating itself because of their very uncomfortable experience here last May in the FA Cup final against Wigan. Colback. Did well to provide a cross, although it has a little bit too much depth. Johnson. Zabaleta. Key. Bardsley losing out. And here comes Cattermole, and Nasri just got rid of it in time. Aguero. Wes Brown has the problem. It's Nasri. Couldn't dispatch it.
No, it was great running from Nasri to actually control it, because it came at him a little high up, so it was awkward to control. But Sunderland got enough about him, and he comes into shot here just to prevent him from getting anything strong at Vito Minone. But well worked by Aguero, but he's just under too much pressure.
Samir Nasri, a victim of a League Cup final upset. He was in the Arsenal team, beaten by Birmingham 3 years ago. And in the Birmingham team that day was Sebastian Larsson.
Well, Manchester City need more from him, David Silva. We need the charging runs now from Yaya Toure. But of course it's all very difficult to implement now, because Sunderland are so organised and so compressed defensively. Just say Pellegrini's just coming off the bench again, and I just think he'd like a little more urgency, because Manchester City are behind and they seem to be just kind of trying to ease their way back into it as opposed to force their way. I think they need to apply a little more aggression.
Oh, Zabaleta doesn't like that. After a brief explosion of fury, he's calmed down. This is Alonso. That's somewhat aimless. Not sure that Kolarov had to play that.
Well, I mean, what's Pantilimon doing? I mean, that's pretty desperate. And we saw that the pass that Nasri attempted at the other end just go harmlessly over the byline. This is not a way to respond.
Johnson. And Johnson towards Company, who's somehow got enough of himself in the way of it. And now the referee will blow. He was trying to allow an advantage to unfold, but there was a foul.
Yeah, I think he felt by Company's third or fourth roll he had to give this. Barini caught the Belgian. How good is that from Adam Johnson? Brilliant feat to go around Demi Chalis again. That's lovely. And he had to be careful, Demi Chalis. You know, if he goes in a little too forcefully there, he could be given a penalty away.
Key and Cattermole combining.
Yeah, apologetic there, Cattermole, but he's been excellent so far. And just a few moments ago he had a chance to go diving in on a challenge, didn't he? And he didn't bother. And again he's looking, Demi Chalis, as the weak link in the Manchester City backline.
So half an hour into the 54th League Cup final, and we have a scoreline that few would have expected, provided by Fabio Borini's extremely well-taken 10th minute goal. Manchester City, overwhelming favourites to win, encountering stubborn and at times inspired resistance from Sunderland. Toure. Zabaleta. Here's Nasri. Silva. Nasri again. Silva once more. Nasri! And the touch from Aguero was denied him by a Sunderland defender.
It was brilliant from Phil Bardsley, who actually tucked right in from right back. And as I was just thinking there, City keeping the ball in front of the Sunderland defence is one thing. They've got to find the penetration. But with little balls like that, little deft balls over the top, that could be the way through.
Silva. Fernandinho. Toure. Nasri. Zabaleta. Toure. Bardsley won it again. Corner. Dimitrilis, a late arrival for this. It was just over Company. Kolarov vying for it. Company wins it. And turns on it. And earns another corner.
But importantly for Sunderland, that anytime Manchester City look like getting a head or a foot to the ball in that box, they get somebody in the way. There's a blocker.
At the moment. Towards the near post, it was a devilish delivery. And Borini, the goal scorer, was there to rescue his team at the other end.
Oh, that's a great run. And this time it's from Kolarov. And Borini's done well, you know, because sometimes you can be embarrassed and head that into your own net. He knew he had to get on the underside of the ball to get the elevation.
Silva. Some shirt pulling going on. There's Larson. Held up by Nasri, looking now for Johnson. City's ball. Manchester City have seen off Wigan, Newcastle, Leicester and West Ham. And the goal they conceded here was only the second they've let in the League Cup competition this season. The other one was scored in the quarter-final at Leicester by Lloyd Dyer.
Yeah, and speaking of Wigan, I mean, based on what happened in the FA Cup final here last season, I honestly thought the memory of that Manchester City would play here with much more dynamism, much more drive in their play, and it's not been there. And thwarted, really, and it's largely down to very good Sunderland tactics.
Nasri. Silva. Marcus Alonso. Gus Poyet never won the League Cup in his playing career. He was a runner-up with Tottenham in 2002 when they were beaten by Blackburn in the final in Cardiff. Sebastian Larsson. Adam Johnson. Catamol. Alonso. Colback. Given away to Toure. Colback bit back. Toure is still rolling around on the floor. It was an overly zealous attempt at a challenge though by Alonso.
Yeah, it was, but for me Colback looked as if he played the ball then, and his momentum has obviously just taken him through Yaya Toure a little bit, got away from there. He's just got eyes for the ball, Jack Colback, and no real harm done I think for Yaya.
The South Korean key. Wes Brown giving Dzeko the slip.
There's a composure about Sunderland on the ball. They're not just here to defend and look for those quick thrusts on the break. They're actually keeping it well at times.
Cries of Olay from the Sunderland end every time they complete another pass. Alonso. Key. Feeling the heat from Toure.
How cool is that?
Predictable response when they lose it, and they've lost it dangerously. Aguero using Dzeko as a foil. And the tackle came in from Alonso, that was a good one.
Do you know, that's the other thing about Sunderland. I mean, Manchester City have known from the first minute of the match that Sunderland are really firm and aggressive in the tackle.
No flag. Barini in again. Another chance for the Italian, and this time Company redeems himself.
Well, I must admit, when that was flicked on from Larsson, I thought he might have been offside, the Italian. Oh, he is.
He is by a yard or so.
He is, and that's not a good call from the assistant, but listen, you've only got to play to the whistle, and he had to get on with it. Company, brilliant, and Company was extra determined because he didn't get back and deal with the first goal of the game, and that time he knew he had to.
All of the back four are up for this. Alonso, the left back, had some height to offer, and it's towards him that the corner was aimed.
I think it was Dzeko just got there before him, and Bardsley and Demichelis. He's a feisty type character, Bardsley. He can wind one or two up, and he's been very strong so far for his side.
A bit of a lecture from Martin Atkinson for the Salford-born Bardsley. One of those three former Manchester United men in the Sunderland back line. Larsson once of Arsenal with the corner. Catamol. And that will go directly out of play.
Yeah, doesn't mind that, Gus Poyet. Just applause from the coach. Not because of what Lee Catamol did there. It was a bit of a Gary Owen, but I just think generally they've got it so right, Sunderland. They really have executed their game plan extremely astutely.
Very apt of you, Gary Owen, ex-Manchester City.
Very clever, John.
One of the nice touches from the organisers at the Football League today. Parade of greats of both sides who have performed deeds of daring do at Wembley in cup finals in the past. But some of the players that were paraded for Manchester City also went out again for Sunderland. The referee, I think, has given a foul.
He has, because the assistant didn't flag as if the ball had gone out, so it wasn't for a throw, and it was a free kick.
Prime amongst those greats of yesteryear, Dennis Stewart. Here's Kolarov. That'll be a corner. Dennis Stewart, of course, played in the 73 FA Cup final for Sunderland and scored the winner for Manchester City with a spectacular overhead kick against Newcastle the last time they won the League Cup in 1976. He says he doesn't know who to support today. He'll be sitting on his hands.
Manchester City need a break, you know, because they're not been able to play their way through.
Silva. Company. Demichelis went down, and in fairness, there are no great appeals. It just seemed for a moment there was going to be a holler for a penalty.
Yeah, well, it's Alonso in the end, who has done this a few times, and I think he felt the arms around him, Demichelis, and went down. But look, they're all at it. Look at John O'Shea on Dzeko. It's a wrestling match, and he wasn't getting there anyway, the Argentine, and it would have been soft to award it. But he's got to be careful, Alonso, because if he wants to hold on like that, one could go against him.
Half-time rapidly approaching in what's becoming a fascinating Capital One Cup final. Bardsley fending off Silva, who won the ball, albeit from behind, but legally. And there's Brown, hacks it straight out of play into the Manchester City dugout. Expectation from those of our personnel down by the fourth official is of 1 additional minute at the end of this half. Silva, space and time for Kolarov, double deflection, and then a Sunderland clearance.
Yeah, but Kolarov can deliver better than that. We've seen him do it several times this season so far, and just Johnson is losing a little discipline now in not tracking the Serbian.
Nasri. Fernandinho finding Toure. Zabaleta. Toure. Fernandinho to Silva.
He's the guy for me still. I think he can be the door opener for Manchester City, David Silva. He's got the magic.
Zabaleta used an arm to control the ball.
Yeah, it's one of those, it's kind of the shoulder junction. And it just seemed a little too high for him, for Zabaleta. And up went the arm, and it did catch the very top of it. Just think, I mean, obviously they've got the crucial goal, Sunderland, but I think good success at the other end. There was only one save, one real save to make from Aguero. That's impressive.
It's Aguero who's on his way now, but O'Shea had a head start. Aguero. And it comes to nothing and leads to 1 or 2 looks of recrimination, particularly from Kolarov.
Well, he worked hard to get in position, and it was a poor ball from Aguero to try and find him again. Once John O'Shea played it away, they pick it up pretty quickly. Silva did that. Now look at the run from Kolarov on the outside. I mean, that's just a poor ball. In fact, I don't think it was meant for Kolarov. I think it was actually meant for Silva. And he got neither, Aguero.
Fourth official is appearing opposite us now. The man on board duties is Neil Swarbrick. And it's been a highly satisfactory first half for Sunderland and their very vocal followers. Animation and noise to our right, glumness and comparative silence to our left. Vivid contrasts inside Wembley Stadium. Fernandinho, Silva, Larson losing out to Fernandinho, who went over on the edge of the box. Again, no great vehemence to the appeals. Larson, Johnson, he was clipped, free kick. Thoughts on the half overall, Jim?
Sunderland have been brilliant. I mean, they knew they had to prioritise defence, and they had to get that part of it right first, and then they could look to just try and pick holes in the Manchester City defence. And they knew also there was a weakness on that left side. They've exploited that, and they've been excellent in this first half, and I'm sure Gus Poyet will say more of the same guys in the second. Pellegrini's got all the work to do.
Well, one resounding roar comes from the east end of Wembley, from the Sunderland fans, because Fabio Borini has given us the most unlikely of half-time scorelines in this year's Capital One Cup final. He struck supremely well after a mistake by the City skipper Vincent Kompany. Just 10 minutes in, he might have backed a second, even though he came from an offside position. He wasn't spotted. Kompany saw him very late and dealt with him in the end. But a tale of great drama, and we may be on the way to one of the great League Cup final upsets. Plenty more to unfold in this particular tale, I think. Half-time score at Wembley Stadium in London reads Manchester City 0, Sunderland 1. Second half commentary from Wembley Stadium will commence in 10 seconds from now. Welcome back to Wembley, where we are pretty much ready for kick-off in the second half of the 2014 Capital One Cup final, with Sunderland leading Manchester City, the overwhelming favourites, through a Fabio Borini goal to 0. No half-time changes. We've just been waiting for an army of ground staff with pitchforks and various other implements to leave the playing area, and away we go. Sunderland playing from the left towards the majority of their 32,000 or so supporters. That's the official tally, at least, at the east end of the stadium, away to our right. Yaya Toure. Here's Dzeko. Now it's Silva. You would expect Manchester City to come racing out of the blocks in this second period. Pablo Zabaleta, Fernandinho, Toure. And that flicks off the head of Brown for a corner.
Well, again, if he's unsure, he had Alonso just behind, but couldn't take any chances. Wes Brown had to deal with it. And again, this game has taken up a similar shape to what we saw first half. Manchester City on the front foot, and Sunderland back in numbers.
It's Nasri. It's over Kolarov to Michelis, and Jack Colback somewhat surprised to find the ball at his feet. As usual at Wembley, some of the posh seats, in inverted commas, slow to fill again after half-time. Either side of halfway, there are swathes of empty red plastic seats. Some of the corporate guests sit. Silva. Every now and then the League Cup final, great showpiece that it is, throws up a surprise result. Most recent 3 years ago, Birmingham beating Arsenal, but we go back into the depths of time, and Swindon beating Arsenal is perhaps the biggest ever back in the 60s. Here's Zabaleta.
Well, clearly meant as a cross, but for a moment I thought that was just going to creep inside that far post. I think Pellegrini would have been amongst his players at half-time, just urging more imagination, more thrust, more power, because, you know, even though their football of late hasn't been as fluid as the first half of the season, they have a power that they can switch on, and it usually emanates from central midfield. Fernandinho and Yaya Toure.
The weather's changed. A veil of rain falling across Wembley now.
Sunderland would love a second goal. That cushion, that kind of psychological easing. And I think the message would have been very much a repeat performance from the first 45, please, from Gus Poyet. Defend as stoutly as you did and see if you can just pinch another.
Bardsley. It's company. The second goal would mean the world to Sunderland. Manchester City, remember, have scored a phenomenal 118 goals this season, but Sunderland are one of only 5 teams to have stopped them scoring when they met in the Premier League back in the autumn. Sunderland 1-0 winners in what was only Poyet's 5th game in charge, with a first half goal from Bardsley. Jekka. Another play off Catamol. Lee Catamol in the side today because Liam Bridcut, the new signing from Brighton, is cup-tied. Alvaro Negredo amongst those sent to go through his paces on the apron of the pitch by Manchester City. 23 goals this season, 6 of them in this competition. Nasri, Toure, Zabaleta, Fernandinho. Nasri for a second time in this move. Now it's David Silva.
Well, he's the one, isn't he? I mean, Aguero, I think, is finding it more difficult to find space, but Silva all the time is just popping up in these little positions, and he could let it run across his body then and get the shot away. Not his best. You always fancied Minone to get behind it and deal with it, which he did. Still think he's the likeliest for Manchester City. We'll see.
Jack Colback for Sunderland. Barini. His pace has worried Demichelis throughout. It's Key. Well, it seemed an unlikely distance from which he struck it. A thick end of 40 yards.
Yeah, I mean, I think Manchester City said, well, go on then if you think you can score from there. And I mean, he had to make the keeper react, and Tilleman's just happy to help it on its way.
He's been a hit for Sunderland since joining on loan from Swansea, but the word from South Wales is that they want him back next season. He is a late arrival for this kid, and he's not really been picked up yet. Brown, there is Key. Well, the flag went up for offside against Bardsley, so had he touched the ball in, it wouldn't have counted.
I think as well, John, with the little bit of rain we've had now and the moisture in the surface, anything that hits the ground before it gets to the goalkeeper will make life even more difficult. If you can fizz one in off a surface like this now, it's slicker.
Key. Colback.
That's a great ball from Alonso. Barini should have tried to hold on to that, really.
Just to put this into some sort of context, there are 5 players out there for Manchester City who individually cost more than the entire Sunderland team. And here's Barini. He's lost out this time to Demichelis. Company, Zabaleta. Colback immediately in on the Argentine. And finally frees himself. David Silva. Pipped and a free kick.
Yeah, and not happy again, David Silva. We saw that reaction a couple of times in the first half, and just as he tried to turn away from Lee Cattermole, he does catch him. Oh, I see Yaya Toure over this. It's no surprise. He could have his own free kick of the season contest, because he's knocked a few spectacular ones in so far.
His record has scored 5 of 7 attempts in the Premier League. And he's walked away from this one. Nasri over it. Nasri, pre-planned. Toure. A wall of Sunderland players in front of him when he received the ball.
Yeah, it may not have been laid back where he wanted, but just a slight miscontrol from Toure, because it was meant for him after all.
Nasri, Dzeko. And Larson does enough to hook it clear. Here come Manchester City again. Yaya Toure. Zabaleta. Toure! Fantastic! Utterly brilliant! And his own personal Wembley hat-trick. He scored in an FA Cup semi, an FA Cup final, and now the final of the League Cup.
And now the pick of the bunch too, because that is sensational from Yaya Toure. The free kick might not have worked in his favour, but boy has he made up for it. This is absolutely stunning. He's involved in it, he's just floating around the box, but when Zabaleta comes back, I don't think Manone thinks he's going to be able to produce that. And it's placed really, he's almost passed it into the top corner. And he's just got the direction absolutely brilliant. The spin he's got on it, so it's curling away from the Italian all the way. Oh, that's precision, that's brilliant.
The man they so often turn to has come up with the goods at Wembley with one of the finest goals seen for a long time in a League Cup final. And given the organisation and the resilience of Sunderland, it was always going to take something inspirational to break them down, but here comes Cattermole at the other end. Barini. Alonso. It's Kolarov's calmly done.
Big game changer. Huge.
Seemed for a while that goal number 119 of the season might not arrive, but it has now. Kolarov. First time hit. 2-1. Nasri. Wonderfully clean strike. 2 goals in 90 seconds have turned the Capital One Cup final on its head.
Well, Sunderland just looking at their players, they look demoralised now, and it all began with a long ball out of defence that Aguero did extremely well to control and just keep it going. And when this is played in, you know, it's taken a little nick into Nasri's path. And so it's a little good fortune on Manchester City's part, but there's nothing lucky about that, because Nasri has come on to that and just caught it absolutely exquisitely. And again, like Barini on his goal, outside of the right foot, got the bend on it, inside the post. And can you believe it, they're ahead.
And he won't strike a ball more satisfyingly than that for a long, long time. Substitution by Manchester City.
Manchester City substitution. Sergio Aguero.
And a word in the ear of the scorer of a splendid goal as well. It's Aguero who's going off, and Jesus Navas is replacing him.
Yeah, and it looks very much like, John, now what we're going to see is Samir Nasri just play off Edin Dzeko. Navas will obviously play from the right, Silva will stay left.
From the restart, after the first goal, 59 seconds before number 2 arrived. Manchester City looking for one moment of inspiration at half-time. 2 have now been delivered.
I think you have to commend Manchester City as well for the numbers they managed to get forward on that last attack before Nasri arrived and finished in the style he did. Because Sunderland had a go at getting ahead again, and they were stretched a little, and that long ball just did the trick. It opened them up. They hadn't got the compactness we'd seen throughout the game, and they got caught.
And Sunderland led for exactly 45 minutes.
Oh, what a change in the atmosphere. It's all coming from the left-hand side now.
Sunderland are going to respond with a double substitution as soon as they can get an opportunity to bring the men on. Kolarov. And Kolarov goes down. Martin Atkinson unimpressed.
Yeah, Phil Bardsley not exactly happy with Kolarov's attempt to win a penalty here. It's good feet, and he's pulled his foot out of the way in time, Phil Bardsley, and yet Kolarov has still gone down. There is a little bit of contact, but he's trying to make the most of it.
Here is the double substitution then. Sebastian Larsson being replaced. Also coming off Adam Johnson, and going on Stephen Fletcher. And the other replacement is Craig Gardner. So Gardner and Fletcher on. And that is Gus Poyet's way of trying to find a way back into this final.
Yeah, and Fletcher's going to play as the lead striker. Barini's just going to play a little deeper behind now. And as you'd expect from Gardner, he's kind of slotting into midfield, just ahead of Katamo.
Two blows directly to Sunderland's chin, delivered in double quick time. First Toure, then Nasri. And this is David Silva. Alex Kolarov. Nasri again.
Yeah, well, again, I think Manchester City are moving the ball a little quicker as well, which I think has helped. It's just given them a bit more tempo, and Nasri needed more bend on that, clearly, and didn't quite get it. But those little gaps that weren't there in the first half because of the numbers that Sunderland defended with are present now.
Fletcher, Colback, and has company to deal with it. Rain has eased off now. Dzeko had his shirt pulled. Looked like the angel of the north for a moment there, Gus Poyet.
Well, his half-time team talk must feel like an awful long time ago with such a quick turnaround in this game.
Last time Manchester City won this competition in 1976, they did so with a truly spectacular goal, an overhead kick from Dennis Stewart, which is still talked about and remembered to this day. And we've had another spectacular from Touré here, and a terrifically crisp, incisive strike from Samir Nasri. And Colback is hauled down, and it's Sunderland's turn to have a set-piece opportunity.
You've certainly got two committed characters in Zabaleta and Colback. And for key on this now, John, it needs to be on the button.
And it's Enoch Larson with it. And it was up, away and beyond everyone, including the focus point, Stephen Fletcher.
Well, he is a powerhouse, Yaya Touré, but he also has an intelligence and a deftness when he needs it, and he's produced it there. The power combined with just sensational placement. And Samir Nasri, he won't hit many better than that either. The way he came onto it, he just caught it perfectly on his right foot.
He's a player who he says has benefited more than most from the arrival of Pellegrini as manager.
I think you could say that he's benefited by the fact that Mancini departed.
Yes.
Yeah. They did not get on.
And just a postscript to Touré's goal. It means that of those 120 goals that Manchester City have scored, the quartet of Touré, Aguero, Dzeko and Negredo have now contributed 84. Closing in on the all-time record for a top division team in a season of 147 by Chelsea only last season. But it's Sunderland who are making progress by degrees here.
Well, is this a soft decision? I mean, that's why Samir Nasri is having a moan to the assistant. Demi Chalis was adjudged to have committed an offence. Looks soft. If Sunderland do register from it, we'll hear plenty about it.
Well, cheap free kicks often exact the most expensive of penalties. It's an angle that will be relatively appealing for Marcus Alonso to bend this in. Sunderland have 6 men ready, willing and able to attack it. Alonso it is, and Pantilimon, not entirely convincingly, appeals for hands against Touré, more from spectators than the Sunderland players. Craig Gardner, throw in for the Black Cats.
I'm not quite sure whether it actually caught him on the arm. Chest. The arm was out, but it was chest.
Fletcher. Touré back there on defensive duty. Fletcher has injured himself there. Don't think it's anything too lasting. He's back up again. Fernandinho, Silva. Phil Bardsley. Both these sides still in the FA Cup, facing quarter-finals next weekend. Manchester City in a repeat of last season's FA Cup final against Wigan. Holloway for Sunderland, who again have a free kick. So they are responding to this change in circumstances.
They are. Well, they have to show now that they've got a plan B, because they were set up basically to defend, try and pinch a goal. Now they have to be positive about things, take the game to Manchester City, and try and find a way back into this.
Gardner. Corner.
I'll tell you what, John O'Shea had a word with Gardner. He nearly found him on the far post in the end. He was the one waiting round the back, had it made it.
Key, plenty of curl, and another corner.
It's a great ball from Key. And his free kick was decent too, if somebody had just gotten round on the far post a few minutes ago.
Bardsley leaves it for Key again. Key's corner, guided clear by Dzeko's head. Cattermole directing operations, finds Colback. 3 in the box still. Fletcher going up. Barini. Demichelis. Barini. Navas will see that out of play.
Yeah, promising momentarily. It was an intelligent header as well from Fletcher on the far post.
Official attendance has just come to hand. 84,697. It is a sellout. Never quite reached the 90,000 capacity here. These are various corporate seats, which are not guaranteed to be filled, but if there are any empty seats, and there aren't too many to be seen around the ground, then the owners of those are missing a treat here. This is Nasri. John O'Shea lets it run, and it's a goal kick.
Yeah, I think a little frustrated with himself, Samir Nasri, then realised he'd taken a bit too much on.
Khaldoon Al-Mubarak, the chairman of Manchester City, watching him passively. And his opposite number, Ellis Short, the Irish-American financier who for the last 5 years has been in control of Sunderland. Cattermole was cut out by Dzeko. Silva. Navas came off his shins, and it's a goal kick.
Yeah, an important little touch from Bardsley in that process. I think Sunderland certainly have the character, John. We've seen them be very spirited today. But, you know, have they got the cleverness now? Have they got the incision? Have they got the guile, the craft to open Manchester City up once more?
Silva. Collision there with Bardsley. Both of them wins. Silva more than Bardsley.
It's been a little tap of the hand, so I think all is forgiven between the two players, thankfully.
Zabaleta clipped Colback.
It looked to me as if he got the ball. Now he's really upset now, and he doesn't want to react to the referee to get himself in trouble, Zabaleta.
Well, he was sent off here in the FA Cup final, so he doesn't have particularly happy memories of Wembley. Not recent ones, anyway.
And Martin Atkinson once gave a goal that wasn't in an FA Cup semi-final here.
Yep. Poor clearance, Demichelis straight to Key. Alonso the left back. And Demichelis then helped it clear. Kolarov. Bardsley's presence allowed Sunderland to win the ball back. Chance for Fletcher.
Well, he's done the most important thing coming on to this, Fletcher, is that he got over it. Because when it's bouncing like that, it's easy to sky it. I thought Kolarov was too casual. He could have given the ball quicker to Yaya Toure, and he got his side in trouble. Just didn't get enough on it, Stephen Fletcher.
It's been a good response by Sunderland.
As I say, I think the character is there, but, you know, can they come up with with some penetration, the right penetration for that Manchester City rearguard now.
10 different scorers in the Capital One Cup for Sunderland this season. It's a competition high. Here's Key. Now Colback. Alonso.
Yeah, that doesn't help. And when you put so much effort in as Phil Bardsley has, it's all the more frustrating. It wasn't the most difficult pass from Key, and he's better than that too, the South Korean.
The 93rd and last game of a fascinating Capital One Cup competition this season. It began in the second week in August. Brown. Alonso. Key. Bardsley. Offside, Craig Gardner.
Yeah, he'd made an earlier movement, Craig Gardner, in behind the Manchester City defence and didn't quite make the ground up again to get back onside. But again, I think you can sense the appreciation from behind that goal. All the Sunderland fans pleased to see that they're very much on the front foot and doing their utmost to try and get back into this.
Greeny receiving the word in the air from Ruben Casillas-Fuzet, his trusted assistant. Catamol. Whatever the outcome, it's been a very good final.
It has, it's been fascinating.
And away goes Fletcher for Sunderland. Alonso getting forward a lot now. Key going on the outside, taking a defender with him. Instead it's Gardner, and up goes the flag again. It's a nice idea.
Oh, it was a much better ball as well. That's a pity from a Sunderland perspective. Had he just gone a little too early again, was he slightly more anxious than everybody else? Yes. Good call. Zabaleta almost played him on, but he was right in raising the flag.
Sunderland have one more substitution that they can make, and they're going to send on the Italian Giaccherini in place of Lee Catamol. Sadly for Catamol, that's going to be his final contribution, a wayward pass.
Well, there's no time for caution now. I mean, Lee Catamol is there to do a defensive job. He's not delighted about making way, I don't think. But they just need a little bit more up front, and Giaccherini again scored a wonderful goal at the Emirates a week ago. He can just give you a little trickery.
And while Sunderland chase the game, Manchester City attempt to sew it up. So off comes Silva, and on in his stead, Javi Garcia.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's what the chat was about before. And obviously he's just slotted into midfield. I mean, in many ways now, with Sunderland pushing forward, Toure has just gone into a slightly more advanced position, and that could spell more bad news for them on the break.
What a difference to last year's final in this competition. And Swansea swept 5 past League Two Bradford City. And whilst it was wonderful that Bradford made the big day, they didn't really compete. And today we've had not just a final but a contest.
Yeah, and just look at... Oh, breaks on.
Yeah, Company found Zabaleta raiding down the right. Yaya Toure, loose touch from him. And Brown's able to clear.
Yeah, well, I was just going to make the point again, reinforcing what I said a couple of moments ago about Toure. You know, Key is kind of supposedly playing the deepest role now, but he's not. He hasn't got the discipline to stay there like Catamol did.
Garcia, and Key held himself into the challenge. The referee tried to keep a light hand on the tiller throughout.
Well, again, I think this is just commitment. I mean, there's no real malice in this. And we saw Garcia got there. I mean, he didn't make an attempt to play it in the end, Key.
Kolarov, chased by Giaccherini, and Giaccherini is penalised. Well, it's been quite a tale, this game. Barini, the scorer of Sunderland's goal after 10 minutes. That's the way it stayed until 10 minutes into the second period. And Toure equalised with a beauty. And 90 seconds later, Nasri lashed one in right-footed. It totally flummoxed Vito Manone. Nothing he could do about it.
I think that the finishing we've had in this game, John, is to be applauded all round, because Barini began it, and it's been followed up by 2 excellent goals in the second half, and obviously Yaya Toure's is the pick of the bunch.
A glance at the history books will show this to be Manchester City's 4th League Cup final. They've won 2 of them. It's only a second appearance in the final for Sunderland, who've never won the competition. Jesus Navas, as Manchester City try to seal this, taking on Alonso. We've got a little piece of the cross, so that is a corner kick.
Well, so many kind of wide players love to cut inside on their stronger foot these days. They're often played on the wrong side. But Navas is like an old-fashioned winger, isn't he? And it still takes you on the outside.
Nasri. And hooked just wide by Vincent Kompany, who'd love nothing more than a goal to make up for some rate himself for the error for Sunderland's goal.
Well, it's very good strength, and I mean, it's a wrestling match between himself and Wes Brown. In the end, Kompany's won, and he's done well to manage to get something on it. And a sizable section of that City support thought that was in too, you know.
Navas. He was hassled, harried, hampered by Alonso, who goes into the book. First caution of this final, Marcus Alonso.
Yeah, understandable as well. I mean, players, you got to remember, are getting tired now. There's been a lot of hard work going into this, and the thought of having a big chase back against Navas was too much, and he just held on.
Toure. Manone with both fists. And all the way back by Garcia.
He's almost the 3rd centre-back, isn't he, Garcia?
Toure. Up comes Navas on the outside, and Watchful enough, Alonso.
Well, he's under most pressure when it comes to that Sunderland defence now, because there's been a concentration of effort on the Manchester City right, and Navas, the type of player, winger, can stretch the game now.
Toure. And that's Alonso. He prevented a corner. A lovely control from Navas. Jack Colback. With the time for Key. Now Bardsley, such an integral part of this cup run for Sunderland. And he'll try one now.
Well, he has happy memories against Manchester City because he got the winner against them at the Stadium of Light earlier in the season. At that time it was maybe a little over-ambitious, coming inside on his left like that and hitting it on the run.
Well, there have been some close scrapes for Sunderland along the way in this run that began back in still late summer against MK Dons. Twice in the 5 rounds they've come from behind to win. They've very nearly gone out against Chelsea and Manchester United. Goals deep into extra time have rescued them. They're now faced with the biggest challenge of all, having led for half of this final. They now trail to those 2 goals in double quick time from Toure and Nasri.
And I guess that's what Manchester City are probably saying in the dressing room at half-time, that it's been high-caliber stuff all season. Don't lose faith in what you can do, and they both produced, didn't they? Yaya Toure and Nasri, with stunners.
Well, what City haven't been able to do is just to swat Sunderland aside in the manner that they were doing to teams 6 weeks ago. Kolarov trying to fend off Colback.
That will do from the Serbian. It's good running, held on to it, won the throw-in. And Manchester City not in a hurry. I think Nasri's actually even turned gesture there to the guy who gave him the ball to say you don't have to be that quick about it.
Nasri. Toure. Lashing cross. Zabaleta. Left-footed, travelling, but off target.
What is it about right backs and left feet at the moment? We saw one from Bardsley moments ago, and Zabaleta again. I think he felt, well, it's opened up, I'll try.
So can Sunderland chisel out one more chance?
If it comes to effort and endeavour, yes. Whether they can produce, as I say, the cleverness to work their way through is another thing. I guess with Fletcher there, you know, he's a canny striker, and possibly. I think the disappointment for me is that Giaccherini hasn't really been involved in the game. Giaccherini can give them something a little more. He's a very tricky character, but we've not seen the ball at his feet.
This isn't what you want to see if you're Sunderland. Off goes 17-goal striker Edin Dzeko in a couple of minutes. And on will come 23-goal striker Alvaro Negredo. Stephen Fletcher. Giaccherini. Pressure from company forced the error. Manchester City can break effectively. Jesus Navas. Toure retreating. Nasri. Kolarov. Nasri. And Bardsley got fed up and fouled him.
That's all he wanted, Samir Nasri. Just kind of eats away another few seconds.
Shall we have a sweep? How long is it going to take the Manchester City player being substituted to leave the pitch? At that rate, quite a long time.
Yeah. I think the officials are obviously just going to add this on now. And you can hear the boos from the Sunderland fans, who are very much aware of what Dzeko is trying to do. I just wonder whether it might rebound on Manchester City with a Sunderland equaliser, with time added on. Who knows?
Well, he's just sauntering as if on a Sunday stroll. Negredo, who has made such a positive impact in English football this season, comes on for a late cameo role.
I think he's been great, John. Complete centre forward, Negredo.
Nasri. Strong header by Alonso. Fletcher. Gardner. Giaccherini. Fletcher again. And Negredo's first contribution is a foul.
Yeah, I think he was making the most of it as well, Fletcher, but he was caught. And no surprise, the key's going to take this, and all the big men are up. Sunderland have to commit. In fact, Manone could be taking this.
Goalkeeper's free kick from inside the opposition half. It'll come for Fletcher. Oh, and the goalkeeper had gone walkabout, and Fletcher's control deserted him.
I thought he was going to hit it first time when it bounced. I thought he was just going to hit it with his right foot, because this is very, very well won. And he can hit it there. I mean, he just has to hit it low across the goalkeeper, and he might have just got his side right back in it again. And in the end, he makes a mess of it and trying to control it with his left.
He does much prefer his left, doesn't he?
He does. But in a situation like this, I mean, a guy who, you know, he's taken many a chance in the past, you would think that he would have just tried his luck.
Emanuele Giaccherini came from Juventus. Alonso, also from Italian football, owned by Fiorentina. Key. And Key again. Sunderland have 6 players in the box. It's a good tackle by Fernandinho. 4 against 2. Now becoming 5 against 2. Toure. Jesus Navas! The Capital One Cup is heading to Manchester City. And a final that swayed one way has now decisively swung the other.
Yeah, it's hard on those guys, Jack Colback and co. It really is. But that's that classic dilemma. You're trying to get back into it. You've got to commit numbers forward. You know you're going to leave yourselves open at the back. And Manchester City chose exactly the right option. And Navas took it well. Fernandinho with the challenge. Now the break is on. The little release from Demichelis. And Yaya Toure can take it on now. He can go left, he can go right. And I think in the end he obviously makes the right choice. And once it finds Navas, he's decided he doesn't need to go across the keeper. At the last moment he decides he can go near post. I think Manone could have got more on it. I think it was savable, but because he's on his right side when the shot came in, he can't recover in time to get a strong enough left hand, and that's it now for Manchester City.
Vindication for Pellegrini. Joy for Manchester City, who are shortly to get their hands on the English League Cup for the first time in just under 40 years. But no repeat of Sunderland's heroics of 73. We're into 4 minutes of stoppage time. Giaccherini running into traffic. Here's Alonso. Mauricio Taricco and Gus Poyet realise the game is now up. Glorious run it's been though. The side in the shadow of a relegation threat. But they haven't been able to do what Wigan did to Manchester City here in the other domestic cup last May. Negredo. Free kick Sunderland, and Negredo kicks the ball into the crowd.
Well, he's just asking for a yellow card.
He's going to get one.
Well, I can't understand what he's done. He hasn't made the greatest impact, shall we say. He's been involved in a couple of fouls on Fletcher in that one just now, and his control there in the box was pretty awful too.
It's been a calamity cameo. One can't help but feel that better days lie ahead if Gus Poyet can keep Sunderland in the Premier League this season. And they're still in the FA Cup. But there'll be no League Cup for them. Bartley came off Demichelis. Fernandinho. Key now. Fernandinho.
He fired that at Zabaleta, didn't he, the Brazilian? They know now. I mean, that's a sloppy ball, but he's got it back again.
Sunderland's fans still doing terrifically well in support of their team. Nasrit to Kolarov. And while Sunderland supporters chant defiance at one end, Manchester City supporters found the ways to celebrate their latest trophy. The league in 2012, before that the FA Cup in 2011. And now what will be the first trophy of the Pellegrini era. And his first trophy at senior level for 10 years.
Yeah, the Sunderland fans have been great. Manchester City fans are now responding too. But they had to work at it, John, Manchester City. They had to wait a while, but they're in a position of real comfort now with that 2-goal cushion.
Zabaleta jumping. This is Alonso. And in a moment, you'll hear a whistle, followed by a huge Mancunian roar. Not that whistle, that's just for a free kick. Of the 2014 final will be this Sunderland set piece. Another thing to Sunderland supporters' credit is that they are lasting the course. Many beaten fans leave early, not them. Keep. Navas, Nasri, and it would be cruel if Sunderland conceded another. But this is Negredo. Now it's Nasri. Zabaleta. Nasri again. Navas. Zabaleta losing it. There's the whistle. Manchester City claim another piece of silverware. Their first under Manuel Pellegrini, who becomes the very first South American coach to lay his hands on the English League Cup. 3-1 the final score, but Jim Beglin, that doesn't tell anything like the whole story.
No, it doesn't, because we saw a very frustrated Manchester City go into the dressing room at half-time, because Sunderland came out with a fine-tuned game plan, and it was working a treat for them. Very disciplined and compact defensively, and giving Manchester City no room to operate. Nasri and Silva couldn't really affect the game the way they liked, and Manchester City weren't getting the chances. But it changed after the break with fantastic finishing, it has to be said. Yaya Toure began it, Nasri followed it up, and then Sunderland had to gamble, and then Manchester City were able to obviously clinch it with that third goal on the counter-attack. But I think those fans and Gus Poyet can be very, very proud of what they've seen from the Black Cats, because they really did put a good shift in. They just came up against very high-caliber opposition who won the day.
The goal scorers for Sunderland in the first half. On loan, Fabio Borini with a tremendous finish, and it was 1-0 at the break for the Black Cats. But Manchester City came out and simply swept them away in a 90-second spell. First Touré with one of the finest goals we've seen in a League Cup final for many a long year. Then Samir Nasri, 2-1, and then as Sunderland pressed forward, they were picked off on the cusp of stoppage time by Jesus Navas to give us a full-time score in the 2014 Capital One Cup final at Wembley of Manchester City 3, Sunderland 1. Manchester City are getting used to celebrating. There are one or two unusual cast members like Pantilimon, the giant goalkeeper, who took the place of Joe Hart today. But the other question that Manchester City fans will ask themselves is, could this be the catalyst for Manchester City putting themselves back on track and surging back to the top of the Barclays Premier League now?
I think absolutely, yes. You touched on it earlier on in the commentary about Samir Nasri and his experiences in losing this final to Birmingham, and the season went downhill from there. I think in reverse of that now at Manchester City, as winners, I think they can take it on and use it as a springboard. It can only give them confidence, it can only help the whole mood of the squad, and even in going to Barcelona, it might just generate a little more optimism that they can still pull something out in the Champions League. Unlikely, but Manchester City do have serious firepower. It's just a case of whether they can switch it on that particular night.
Well, Vincent Kompany will be a relieved man after his mistake early in this final that gifted a goal to Sunderland.
Well, I think it was the problem area. I think we focused on that early on. I think in many respects, Kompany was actually trying to do Demi Chalis' job. He's clearly the weak link. The ball was played over the Argentine's head. Kompany tried to mop it up, didn't get himself in a good position, and it rebounded very nicely for Barini to open the scoring. But listen, all relieved now, all smiles, because this is a multi-talented squad. They were always favourites. We always expected that somehow they'd find a way to produce victory, and they have.
Well, clear delight on those familiar faces of Manchester City's iconic players like Touré, who's now scored in FA Cup semi-final and final and a League Cup final on this ground. The man very much for the big occasion, and Gus Poyet going round to every single one of his Sunderland charges, but those that played and those that were on the bench, but only the goalkeeper in tears at the end, and congratulating them on a Herculean effort. But in the end, two inspirational moments saw off their challenge, and there was to be no repeat of their FA Cup final win of 1973. The presentation podium just being set up, in a moment the medals will be dished out.
Yeah, and going back on what you commented on too, John, about the state of the club, Gus Poyet found it when he was assigned. It had been a mess. The dressing room was a mess, and he stabilised the whole environment. I think you have to appreciate what Sunderland have managed to do. They were a bit of a mess last week too at the Emirates, but they really did come out well. Unfortunately, they've met a team with many superstars, and Yaya Touré, one of the biggest in the side, and Pellegrini now happy to go amongst his players, congratulate them all, and hope that there are better things to come in both the FA Cup and the Premier League.
Yes, they're well placed with those two games in hand in the Premier League. Even though Chelsea surged clear yesterday, Manchester City, if they win their games in hand, would be top with their superior goal difference. James Milner, a loyal foot soldier, a few words with the manager as well, who has endeared himself to all and sundry at Manchester City. He may have a fairly rugged exterior, and he was a no-nonsense Chilean international centre-back who didn't take prisoners, but as a manager he has a track record that suggests he can achieve, and now that he has this war chest with which to buy players, he really should achieve.
Yeah, and he does it in style. I think there was always an element of caution in the way Roberto Mancini set his side up. Nothing against the Italian, but I think what we've seen in the first half of the season from Manchester City has been sensational. Some of the football they've played, and the big wins they've had over the likes of Manchester United and Arsenal, several teams, they were just blowing them away, particularly at the Etihad. So he is doing it in a more stylish way, and and he's certainly entertaining people in the process. They're always a good watch for me, Manchester City.
Well, up go the runners-up, led by their redoubtable captain, John O'Shea, for whom it is a second losing final to go with 2 wins with Manchester United. Behind him is partner and long-time colleague at both clubs, Wes Brown. And warm applause from the Sunderland supporters who have largely remained, and indeed from Manchester City counterparts. It has been a sporting final, 2 sets of supporters genuinely pleased to be here, rather than tired of visiting the National Stadium again, which can be the case with 1 or 2 of the bigger clubs. But there was a natural warmth and enthusiasm between the 2 sets of fans as they mingled on the courses around these famous features of Wembley Stadium. The arch dominating everything, and beneath that arch have come the weary players of Sunderland to accept their runners-up medals. The dignitaries with cursory handshakes and the look of disappointment etched on the face of Sunderland's captain. Vincent Kompany beginning the ascent. From ground level to on high.
And you know, speaking of players that have been good value, 6 million from Hamburg for Vincent Kompany. That is some of the best business the Premier League has ever seen, because he is a leader, commander, and I think he could be doing this sort of thing a little bit more in time to come for what lies ahead for Manchester City.
In between the runners-up and the winners, the match officials go through and receive their mementos. Martin Atkinson, the referee. Meanwhile, the trophy under the watchful gaze of Greg Clark, the chairman of the Football League. Long-serving official Andy Williamson is placed on the plinth. And that little landing is where cup winners are always asked to wait at the new Wembley for the signal to move forward amidst the flashbulbs and the spotlight to receive their silverware. No more elegant player, no more reliable captain than Vincent Kompany, the brilliant Belgian, who will grace this summer's World Cup as he has graced the English scene now for the past 6 seasons. A handshake and a medal. Kompany represents class. Manchester City represent firepower and investment. And Kompany waits for some of his teammates. The plan was that he should lift it straight away, but he wants Nasri to be with him, and the pair of them will be on hand, because Kompany plus Manchester City equals success and trophies. Manchester City lift the League Cup for the first time since the days of kipper ties and flared trousers. The modern Manchester City are threatening to become unstoppable.